thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, December 30th. And today is National Bicarbonate of Soda Day. I'm guessing the bicarbonate is the carbonation in the soda, you guys? Because, you know, where else would we be without bubbles?
You tell me, Jason. You're thinking of all things cannabis seltzer.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny loves the bubbles.
Bubbles in the bathtub.
Oh boy. It's also Falling Needles Family Fest Day. I guess today's the day you're supposed to like clean up your tree and, you know what I'm saying, sweep up all the fallen needles.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about hypodermic.
And here's something I think we can all get behind. Today it's also National Bacon Day.
Yeah.
Bacon is the meat version of ranch dressing. Makes everything better.
Meat candy.
Meat version of ranch dressing, huh? That's cute, Rico. That's cute. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And kicking it off first, that's right, we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the man who is constantly trying to pull off this pool card. Nonetheless, the black beanie, rocking it out with his Toast t-shirt. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Thank you, Jason. According to NORML, the Drug Enforcement Administration have failed to publicly provide reporting data in 2024 regarding total number of marijuana seizures and arrests made by federal agents and others participating in the domestic cannabis eradication suppression program. The DESP began funding cannabis eradication programs in Hawaii and California in 1979. Annual reports summarize programs. Activities are archived in the DEA's website for the years of 2011 to 2022. The last time the agency publicly released a updated report was in May 2023. Marijuana crop seizures by the DEA and their partners fell nearly 33% between 2011 and 2020 before rising again in 2021 and 2022. Then they were shut off. Marijuana-related arrests by federal agents also declined sharply during this time from 8,501 in 2011 to fewer than 5,000 in 2020 before also rising in 2021. COVID kicked into high gear. NORML's Deputy Director Paul Armentano criticized the agency's failure to publicly release updated data on its website. He said that at a time when voters and their elected officials nationwide are reevaluating state and federal marijuana policies, it is inconceivable that the government agencies are unwilling to provide data on the estimated costs and scope of federal marijuana prohibition in America. Normally, big pun there, I do not pull stories from Normal or support shit that they do because they're a hypocritical ass organization with questionable funding that claims to be a lot more than they are. But Normal's got a point here, and I gotta give props where they're due. We should all be raising these same questions. What's the DEA hiding behind this data? We are in a very pivotal moment nationwide when it comes to cannabis, where every damn decision made in Congress calls upon current numbers on arrests, fatalities, etc. I think it's long overdue that the DEA truly be audited. Not this whole kabuki theater song and dance bullshit that they're able to weasel their way out of. I mean, a real transparent audit so that the American people can see how many millions of dollars of their own hard-earned tax dollars each year are wasted on fruitless, corrupt garbage that's literally doing nothing to make America safer than it already is. Fire Ann Milgram, defund the DEA, and deschedule cannabis altogether. Enough is enough. Meet the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News.
Amazing. Well, you know, there's been a lot of controversy going on with the DEA this week. Vivek Ramaswamy called for more funding to the DEA. So I got a whole bunch of calls and texts in regards with this over the weekend, and I personally agree with you, Rico, that it needs to be they need to be, I don't know if they necessarily need to be defunded, but they need to be reprioritized, because in regards with the increase in funding, as long as that's all for fentanyl enforcement and whatnot, I'm all in favor of that. I have no problem with that. But I think they need to get with the Cash Patel program and remove these guys from their desk jobs and get these guys all out in field agents and actually doing something.
Yeah, maybe they need to be replaced by H-1Bs.
Oh, boy. I see what you did. You guys are funny. You guys are funny. Mm-hmm. What do you got to say? What do you think about all this, Jenny?
I mean, come on.
What?
Come on, Jason. What do you think is going to change?
What do I think is going to change? I mean, the days, the calendar.
You think they're really going to prioritize fentanyl? They're not going to. We're low-hanging fruit. We're easy. Like, it's not. They're not going to stop. Because the report's coming out soon that tells us how many arrests have been made and how much money has been seized and how many people have been put in jail and how much cannabis has been seized this year. So we should probably report on that report soon and see if they're actually, deprioritizing cannabis.
Oh, we will.
They're not releasing it, though, right? Isn't that the point of the article?
No, it should be released.
They're releasing any of that information. That's why I say I'm calling for a full audit of the DEA.
Really? Because I read an article this morning that said it should be released within like a week or so. Like, it's an annual report. They can't not release an annual report.
Yeah, they haven't released since 2023, since early 2023, and those were 2021, 2022 numbers.
Well, I guess we'll see.
I had updated information at all.
Oh, it's like safe banking. It'll happen next week.
Yep.
Oh, you guys are. Oh, man. Yarrow's out there driving, looking like he's running from the cops right now, or possibly the DEA. Are you okay, Yarrow?
Yeah, I got a great criminal defense attorney, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just in a low-speed chase in a white Bronco. You know how we do.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Pretty off that H-1B cash he got.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I mean, we've always said, and we've all been pretty unanimous, that the DEA has a noble mandate when it comes to fentanyl, and there really are things that organization could do to be a net positive. I think the biggest challenge is that we've got an organization that has had limited accountability and has played both sides of the fence, and that's not a partisan opinion. That's a fact. And so when you have blood on your hands, how do you then position yourself to be the white knight crusader coming in to save America from the synthetic opioid pandemic? And so I wonder, when What's His Lips talks about increasing funding, like, unless you increase accountability and you reprioritize what the organization is doing. We're in an era now where people are talking about defunding the Department of Education and adding funding to the DEA. Like, what world are we in now? Because that doesn't make any sense. And what politicians tend to do is they throw money at problems they can't solve. And so it would have been very different if that gentleman had come out with very specific suggestions about what that funding would do and how it would be different. But that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Funding. Yarrow, is that a G-Wagon? Did you have like a midlife crisis and go get a cool dad car?
No, it's a Mini Cooper.
It's definitely not a Mini Cooper.
It's a Maxi Cooper.
Oh.
I had a mini crisis and got a maxi vehicle.
What did you get? Was I right?
No comment.
Yeah. Okay.
What is it? What is it, Yarrow?
What's that, Jason?
What is it, Yarrow? What type of vehicle did you steal?
Oh, it's really hard to carjack when you can't even get off the shelf. I'm a simple man. I'm driving a Japanese Toyota. Very happy with it.
Japanese Toyota.
Actually, it was made in Kentucky. I misspoke. It's American made.
They're assembled in Kentucky, Yarrow. Assembled in Kentucky. All right, fair enough. All right, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's Joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Oh, and we are back, you guys.
We are back. Up next is none other than the highest Republican in every room, the High at 9 News head honcho, the king of all things, H-1B visa.
Yes. You guys are funny. Oh, yes. It was, it was a good, fun, little interesting squabble going on, Rico. You know what I mean?
Squabble up.
Yes.
Yeah. Versus Tech MAGA. Who's going to be the victor?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you something, man, because my story is very, very interesting, you guys. And, Kentucky has been in the news a lot lately because medical marijuana will be legal in Kentucky in 2025. But don't try to light up, you guys. But then again, the governor told you could just drive out of state and purchase and cross state lines, which is a federally legal crime. And you know what I'm saying? Here's why, you guys. Because medical marijuana became legal in Kentucky next year, but some provisions in place as part of the Commonwealth's upcoming program could make it difficult for cardholders to use it, you guys. Under Kentucky's new law, consuming the plant in its natural form through smoking and growing it at home could result in legal consequences or a loss of license if registered users try to light up instead of other means of using it, like vaping. Matthew Bratcher, executive director of Kentucky Normal, an organization focused on reforming Kentucky cannabis legislation, said, although dispensaries can sell raw plant material, consumption methods are limited unless in concentrated or vaporized forms. And a quote, flower is still available, but smoking it is sort of against the rules. So I guess that constitutes rolling it up and firing it up like a cigarette or a joint, he said. According to the Kentucky Office of Medical Cannabis, consuming raw plant material through combustion or smoking is strictly prohibited for medical cannabis cardholders under Kentucky law. Violators could possibly have their medical marijuana licenses suspended or revoked and also be subject to any local laws or ordinances that apply, officials said in a statement to the Courier-Journal. Other violations under the new law include consuming vaporized products in public spaces, possessing more marijuana than the amount determined legal by the cabinet, and cultivating marijuana at home, which could result in a misdemeanor or felony charges, and fines or jail time. Why is Kentucky's new medical marijuana law so restrictive, you ask? Well, James Nemes, Kentucky State Representative for the 33rd District, said the passing of Senate Bill 47 required multiple provisions and discussions, and in a quote says, "I do understand that some doctors think it's the most effective way for some conditions, but with smoking it in there, it wasn't going to pass. There are very many people, including myself. We don't want any smoking ever in public," Neem said. "With smoking in your home, we had to put the provision in the bill just to make sure we could get it passed." According to the University of Kentucky, the state currently ranks 4th for adult smoking rates, down a couple of spots after many years in 1st or 2nd. And in 2022, the average rate was 17.4%. And it also remains the state with the largest number of tobacco farms, you guys. Nemes said that while Kentucky, being known for its infamously high smoking rates, may have been in many people's minds when drafting the Commonwealth's provision against lighting up, in the law for the program, it wasn't the primary factor, though, he says. In a quote, "Mostly it was an effort to ensure that you can walk around our communities and not smell marijuana here," he said. Critics point to Western states' potential federal rescheduling to advocate for more lax rules, and Robert Metheny, director of the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition and owner of KY CBD Pharmacy, said the combustion clause is another way to criminalize Kentuckians for a product they'll legally be allowed to have. I totally agree with that. In a quote, "The legislators that wrote this bill had no intention of helping Kentuckians gain access to this beneficial plant, but to overregulate and create revenue from the backs of Kentuckians," Matheny said. Patrick Dunnigan, founder of the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition, said the Commonwealth's restrictions remain intense amid possible change at the national level. And in a quote, "We've got the DEA literally on the verge of rescheduling this to Schedule 3, Matheny said. "That's in a nutshell saying that the federal government agrees it has medical value." And some states like Ohio and West Virginia have enacted similar legislation in their medical marijuana programs, while those at the forefront of the marijuana movement like California, Colorado, and Oregon have more lax provisions. Bratcher said medical patients with certain conditions need access to the entirety of the plant, but in a state where smoking is frequent, he understands where legislators are coming from. In a quote, "There are also certain patients that need to choose a whole plant for the THCA and THCB, especially cancer patients," Bratcher said. "Having access to the whole plant is super important, and they realize that, but we're a state that's been trying to cut down on smoking of any form for a long time." Massachusetts Governor, excuse me. Sorry about that, you guys. That's my final story. But man, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. They're trying to tell you that in Kentucky you can't smoke, and this is the home of the cornbread mafia, you guys. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
They're shooting themselves in the foot.
Right? This is
really like KFC sales will go through the motherfucking roof.
Oh God. The Colonel would be pissed, right?
The Colonel is the original member of the cornbread mafia, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Real talk. Like, what are they thinking?
I mean, well, it says right there what they're thinking is that they're trying to cut down on smoking overall in their entire state, Rico.
I mean, that's why they took that's why they changed the name of KFC of Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC.
That's not why. That's not why they changed the name.
They took it out because they said that the fried in it had nothing to do with the chicken, despite what
I don't know. I think it had something to do with the chicken, bro.
Despite what the rumor said. They said they wanted to take the fried out of it because of the negative connotations to unhealthy food. So I guess this tracks with the rest of the bullshit that they're doing. But my question to you, Jason, has Kentucky not woke?
No. They're not woke. They're just being prohibitionists while trying to look like they are, trying to be freedom loving Americans at the same time.
Did I understand that right? That they're trying to criminalize all smoking anywhere of cannabis, even in your own home?
Yes. Yes, that was my understanding based off the article.
So if your neighbor reports that you're smoking weed in your house, they can come arrest you or something?
I'm not necessarily. I'm not necessarily sure if that is enough for them to be able to come and do, but they're basically saying that they don't want you to be able to be smoking it at the same time as also as home grow. They're not allowing for home grow either, according to this article.
I love laws that there's just no way you could enforce it.
Right. Exactly.
Like, what's the point of creating a law that there's just literally no enforcement possibility at all?
I totally agree with you. I'm all the way with you on this, Jesse. It's totally unenforceable, and there's going to be tons of people lining up. It's kind of like in Puerto Rico, right? They don't allow flower to be smoked, right? So they don't sell pre-rolls, but they'll sell the weed pre-ground up because they want you to vaporize it. And I can imagine that Kentucky's going to have take a similar approach as that. But meanwhile, all the people buy the pre-ground stuff up and just roll it up and smoke it.
Yeah.
The part that worries me is that this is a medical program, and they're saying that if you are caught smoking cannabis, that you could have your medical license revoked. Now that's the part that troubles me the most with all of this.
That's wacky.
Hold on. So if you own a medical dispensary and you're caught smoking, is that what you're saying?
Whether you own
medical card.
If your medical card, if you're a patient and you're caught smoking, they're going to be able to revoke your medical card.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but is this a blue state or a red state? Because this is, again, government interference with the relationship between a patient and their doctor, right? Mm-hmm. And you've heard, everybody who's tuned in has heard me talk way too much about that. But here we see it more squarely focused on the relationship between a cannabis patient and their doctor. But it's a really not so slippery slope. It's a dangerous precedent that's being normalized across this country, that the government has this right to interfere with that sacred relationship between patient and healthcare practitioner, and the notion that your medical license, your permit, your prescription, whatever they call it, to be able to use medical cannabis could be revoked for behavior. It's yet another example of penalizing a patient, and it to me,
it's insane.
It's the most un-American thing I've heard all year.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm with you on that, Rico. This is insane. What do you have to say about this, Jenny Beth?
I mean, it's ridiculous. Largely unenforceable. We'll see what happens.
Chick-fil-A lets you smoke on Sundays.
Oh God, Rico, you are a very, very, very funny guy.
Rico, not if you're gay. They don't let you smoke.
Maybe they had to do something to scale back on the fact that they told people to cross state lines to go get weed.
I mean, I'm just surprised that they told people that they could break federal law by doing this, and then they're saying that under the state law you can't smoke it. This is just half backwards crazy to me.
No, it's not. It's entrapment.
It's entrapment.
Yeah, Matheny, not Matheny. Matheny knew what he was doing.
This is why.
So Jen, you're saying they're using this as a reason to pull people over, and anything of the smell or the smoke.
No, I'm saying they made a huge fucking mistake when they started telling people to cross state lines and break federal law and bring it over. So now they're finding a way to recriminalize you for shit they already told you to do. Because if I got pulled over pulling back into Kentucky with my weed from another state, my first thing I'm going to say is, look right here. This is what you told me to do. Which is a pretty fucking good defense.
sex me so good. I said, oh, la, la.
I mean, I feel you. Yeah, the governor said I could do it. The governor.
It makes sense to outlaw smoking in public places. It's pretty hard to argue against that when you have children and things that could be around. But to outlaw it in general just seems like bananas, like literally Banana Republic, like weird. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's like.
It sounds to me like it's prohibition masquerading as a medical program.
Masquerading as hoabit.
Masquerading as what, Rico?
Rico's
Prohibition?
this morning. He's on a weird one.
Prohibition.
Rico's attention-seeking behavior and intrusive thoughts are getting the best of him this morning.
Only fast food chicken I fuck with is Popeyes. You know what I'm saying? Popeyes, KFC.
Yeah, okay. I don't like Popeyes.
You don't like how you like Popeyes? Popeyes got the best seasoning.
Because I disagree. I don't think they do.
Way better. You
I don't really like fast food chicken, period. So I guess I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
But if you were to have fast food chicken, who would be your choice, Jenny Beth?
I would go to Publix and get it from the deli because Publix deli chicken is delicious.
Publix, see?
Publix. Interesting.
Talking about like Florida?
I'm talking about like Georgia. I'm talking about like anywhere in the South that has Publix. They know about the Pub Stub, Publix Sammy's, and they know about the Publix fried chicken.
What about the California way?
I'm from Georgia, dude.
I'm going to church.
Fry my own fucking fried chicken.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
I fuck with Harold's, when I was in Chicago, but we ain't in there no more. We're talking about right now. Yesterday already happened. Tomorrow ain't promised. Right now.
And I fry my own chicken.
You're going to fry your own chicken.
I always fry my own chicken.
Burn down your own house. Only thing you have left after that is to smoke a joint.
I made fried chicken like 3 weeks ago. It's a 2-day process.
Yesterday already happened. Tomorrow ain't promised. You had to do it today.
I'm actually making fried chicken wings for my son tonight.
Oh, look at that, Rico.
It ain't happening.
And he just screamed woo from the other room.
See, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. We're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Jesse Barney Design Co. He's a branding and specialist and helped us with our initial branding and everything with High at 9 News. So thank you so much, Jesse. It's great to have you back. It is none other than the Jesse Barney.
Let's go, Jeff.
What's up? Yeah, what's up, y'all? Happy Monday. Good morning. It's nice to be here. My story comes out of MJ Biz Daily this morning, fresh off the press by Chris Roberts. He literally launched it this morning, and it's called How to Start a Successful Cannabis Brand in a Down Market. Ryan Clark was 19 years old with a baby on the way when the Tulare County Sheriff's Office raided the hobbyist grower's first small-scale commercial cannabis grow, a lone plant in a house he and a few friends rented. After that setback, Clark set out on a mission, he recalled in a recent interview, to acquire the brightest light he could find by any means necessary. And so it was that Clark grew 4 plants underneath the glare of a 400-watt high-pressure sodium wall pack that previously had been affixed to the outside of a building in an alleyway. The profit from that operation funded a proper setup. One thing led to another over the next 2 decades, and after stints running a hydroponics store and overseeing construction and cultivation for the first large regulated operator in California's Central Valley, Clark launched his own flower business in 2021, which was considered by many a down market for cultivators. Today, Clark is a co-owner and head cultivator of upscale and profitable flower brand Bosky Genetics in Woodlake, California, in the same county policed by the sheriffs who raided his house as a teenager. Bosky operates a 10,000 square foot building with 5,000 square feet of plant canopy. Clark launched the company with a $2.6 million startup budget, cash secured via a 5-year loan at 5% interest from a private investor. That investment got Bosky only as far as the first harvest, so Clark cut costs until he could generate revenue. Clark, his wife, and 2 of his growers hung lights, built benches, installed ducting, sealed floors, and plumbed all of our grow rooms to help save on the build cost, he recalled. Pandemic-era supply chain problems and price fluctuations for materials inflated costs by as much as 25%, making efficiencies a necessity. With the cutthroat efficiency of the leanest startup, Bosky Genetics went from nothing but bare dirt to planting and growing and fully licensed in 11 months, Clark said. Less than 2 years later, Clark said the brand is making enough profit to pay off that initial loan within 5 years. If that 2 years sounds like quick success, consider the lifelong investment of time. There were the summers Clark spent as a teenager with his father, a pest control advisor for Big Ag in California's Central Valley, seeking out and stamping out bugs in a massive plantings of cotton and wheat. There were the countless hours in high school, and immediately after that, Clark spent poring over the cultivation section in High Times magazine and online bulletin boards, seeking the wisdom needed to eke out a few more grams from the light stashed in his closet. Then there's the success he found at cannabis competitions starting in the 2010s. A third place finish in the hybrid event at the 2017 High Times Cup in San Bernardino, one of the last competitions in California, helped build Clark's organic buzz. A skilled macro photographer, Clark used his flower photography to populate social media channels, which he ran with the legacy era passion and authenticity that resonates with the flower buying public. Word spread, and that hype encouraged Clark to build a brand. The name Bosky, which Clark discovered via the magic of Google, is an obscure literary term for abundance or woody, as in attractively covered with trees. They built a logo, a letter B stylized to resemble a bolt of lightning, as well as a black and white skull that pops out on the brand's jars and Mylar bags. But it was a chance meeting with a licensed cultivator at a coffee shop before a cannabis competition that propelled Clark out of the legacy market and into the regulated one via a job as the grower's operations manager. If you ask Clark why Bosky is retailing flower in 32 stores and counting, as well as fetching $1,300 a pound wholesale in California's saturated market, meaning consumers pay $37 to $50 for an eighth at retail pre-tax, he would say it's because he knows exactly what he and his 12 employees are doing. Those 12 employees include 5 people running the grow rooms, another 6 doing the processing, including a hand trimming, and only recently a statewide sales director. Clark knows this because he's done it all himself before, and he's been doing it for a very long time. Most of the 32 stores where Bosky is sold were introduced to the brand via personal connections made at events, existing friend networks for the old-fashioned way, word of mouth. He also deliberately limited Bosky to stores able to pay cash on delivery. Smart. Thereby ensuring the brand wasn't held hostage by net 45 payment cycles that became months old and unpaid invoices. Clark had to defy logic and ignore the sky is falling prophecies elsewhere in legal marijuana to launch his own brand. He'd worked hard as a head grower for other much larger commercial operations before setting off on his own in December 2020. At the big operations that went bust, Clark saw firsthand how outlandishly sized grows, unrealistic projections, and unnecessary expenses compounded with a general ignorance of market realities that can thwart large-scale dreams. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in all my years of cultivation is to design and build your grow right the first time, not waste money on luxury items that are not needed to grow amazing cannabis, he said. So Clark kept things lean. The marijuana industry's COVID-19 sales spike came and went and was replaced by severe supply chain issues and material shortages, with equipment prices so volatile a day's hesitation before finalizing a purchase could cost tens of thousands of dollars. It was insane, Clark said, adding that by that point he was too far along to quit. It was just one of those things where we had already gotten this started and, let's go. To build a successful flower brand in California's ultra-competitive regulated market, which involves rampant illicit market competition, as well as tight margins for those playing it by the book, Clark has stayed relatively small, maintained strict efficiencies with his labor costs, and stayed fresh in a literal sense. It really boils down to what your metrics are in the grow. How many grams per square foot can you hit, and how can you maintain quality at that footage, he said. Clark said Bosky has been able to average between 60 and 70 grams per square foot. Staying fresh means harvesting 22.8 times a year, keeping strict 64-day cycles, plus another 32 days post-harvest for curing and trimming before flower is ready for sale. All the strains Bosky grows are developed in-house, with favorites including grip tape, a proprietary blend with strong headband OG notes. He's constantly experimenting with strains. He recently added a sour cross, blah, blah, blah. Part of Bosky's reputation is owed to the fact that everything is fresh, often sold out via pre-order before the plants are cut and hung. Our average pre-order turnaround time from finished and tested flower to the store is 10 days or less from package date, he said. Anything that doesn't sell is sold at bulk rates or destroyed. I'd rather do that than sell someone old weed, he said. This is Jesse Barney, and that's a great story. The interesting part about, I think, this is that it takes the history to build a brand like this, and you have to run as lean as possible. You cannot be like these brands that think they can just go buy all the merch and do all the advertising and buy the automated room. You have to build stuff yourself and be lean. So it's cool, though. It's cool that he can launch that in 2021 and be successful so far.
Well, Jesse, what's the brand called again?
Bosky.
Bosky.
Bosky. Bosky.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. What do you have to say about this, Yarrow?
Well, I got a lot to say. So it
There we
says
go.
that they harvest. So first of all, and I don't mean this in any denigrating way, it's an interesting question to me. At what square footage do you have a business? Because 5,000 square feet of cultivation space is pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I get that it's about profit versus small.
Small
but
batch.
This article, well, they say that they harvest 22 times a year, which means if you take 5,000 square feet, you divide it by that, that means they have hundreds of little small compartmentalized grow rooms within that space, over 200. So they've built like 200 square foot pods, or little
subwells, sub rooms,
which is good because you compartmentalize any pests or issues. But you also don't get an economy of scale with certain infrastructures like your heating, cooling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing for me is, while I love this story, this to me feels like it's a Hallmark special, because they're talking about a profitable business that hasn't paid back the loan yet. Like, are you fucking kidding me? This started in 2021. They're on track to pay it back. There's a lot of distance between this article and the happy ending. Technically, one could argue that it's profitable, but I would argue that until they've paid back that almost $3 million, that I don't know that they're profitable. I hope they are. That's great. And it's wonderful that they're selling out of their batches, but that's also an indication that 5,000 square feet of canopy isn't going to be enough to scale this brand, which means they're either going to need to pay off their loan and then go expand their footprint, or they're going to have to raise more money to expand their footprint before they've paid off their loan. So I think when you sort of peel it back and look at it, it's more of like a human interest piece to show the resiliency of those operators in California, which obviously I love. But I can't say it's a profitable business when you borrow almost $3 million and you haven't paid it off yet. I think that's a premature statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you got to say, Jenny?
I mean, 32 shops is not a large footprint in the state of California for sure. I mean, it's definitely a small boutique grow. I agree with Yarrow. The loans aren't paid off. You can't be profitable if you're in debt. That's just how profit works, right? But I think, it's a good, when I read it, it read like a puff piece to me. So, I mean, shout out to Ryan. It's awesome that he was able to come back from a conviction and whatever, and open a company and get his foot into the legal market. I think that's the bigger success here. And I hope that, time will tell. We will see if it becomes a profitable company, but I think that it's definitely a testament to doing it before, right? And so knowing what you're doing as opposed to just trying to put together some kit grow and expecting to make $1 million in 6 months. But it's also a testament to like what I tell everybody when, especially when they're coming in on the equity side, is start low and slow and try and build up. Now, I don't tell them to go take a $3 million fucking debt out. That's the point of building low and slow. It's try to build within your means, pay for as much as you can so you can retain as much equity in your business as possible. But, we'll see. I think it's from MJ Biz Daily, right? So I think this is probably a, puffier piece, but I wish them the best best of luck and most success.
So you think this?
Don't you think it's smart though, Jenny, that he took it as a loan instead of like an actual investment? Like the investor didn't buy into the company. It's a loan that he's paying back, and then it's done.
Well, I don't know that because I don't know if that debt's secured by equity or how that loan is secured or what, happens if he defaults on that loan.
Good point, Jenny. Really good point right there. What are you going to say, Yarrow? I see you itching.
Well, 5% for $2.6 million is great terms. And so this gentleman either had a sphere of influence that allowed him to do that or was a fantastic negotiator. I'm not mad at him for that. I think that is not within the bell curve of the cost of capital for most operators in this space, including ones that have been around for a very long time and can show a regulated CV of success. Very few people are paying 5%. So I am super happy for him, but I also would say that is not a typical scenario.
Right.
That was the whole thing to me, and why I liked this article was that the headline says, that this is how to build a successful brand. And then what it does is go through, well, he's done this for 20 years or more. He has a huge network. He's built a legacy thing for a long time. He created strains and won a bunch of cups in the legacy market. And then clearly, like you're saying, he met this investor. Like, this is somebody from his circle at some point along that journey who's willing to go, yeah, I'll give you the $2.5 million for 5%. Just pay me back in 5 years. No big deal.
Yeah.
And so all of those things lining up is not typical. And I think the real point of it is it's fucking really hard to survive and actually make a cannabis brand in any state, especially California. And you have to have all of these things lined up to even stack it so that you might be able to.
And here's the other thing, right? And I love this guy. I'm rooting for him. I want to see wild success for Boski Genetics. I also have nothing against the author. And what the article says is, with cutthroat efficiency of the leanest startups. Well, you're not the leanest startup if you raise $2.8 million. I'm sorry. You can't be both. You just can't. You either had a 7-figure pre-revenue raise, and congratulations to you, or you are the leanest of startups. But I don't think you can be both.
Yeah. You're the leanest of startups with the largest of runways. Congratulations.
The other thing also was the article says, plants were growing in 11 months. Well, if you're doing indoor, that doesn't matter. So again, I don't want to hate on the article. I think what the article is trying to say, and they were trying to use like a vignette of a lean startup. I think what the article is trying to say is that some of the most successful brands, at least in maturing markets where we see price decline and compression of margins, some of the most successful brands are the ones that haven't tried to grow too big, that have tried to create a loyal following, really focus on their relationships, no future in the front when it comes to their vendors, and where they're not trying to be the biggest, they're trying to be the best. And so I think that's what the article is trying to say. I can't say that the information they provided completely supports that narrative, but I buy into that narrative myself.
Speaking of,
there's one more exception too, because how do you make quality weed in 64 days every single time?
Well, you don't. You have a veg room someplace else or on site, and then you put them in your bloom room. You let those girls hang out in the day spa for a second, and bada bing, bada boom. But no, you cannot. You cannot. From cutting to cutting and harvesting, 64 days. Very, very, very unlikely. Short. And if you look at the picture in this article, I would argue this gentleman is vegging too long because his plants are 4.5 feet long and he's not poodling the bottoms of them to have the flower and the plant focus.
I thought that too. When I saw the plants, I was like, what? Those things look spindly as fuck.
You're growing them way too tall, and you should have stripped those bottom internodes off so that the plant could focus on its tops. But I'm rooting for you.
We'll see. We'll have to check back in a couple years and see if it's still going and if he pays off the loan.
Go ahead, Jenny. Say what you're saying.
Yeah, I didn't look at his picture, so I'm not going to comment on his structure of his plants. But I will say that it would make a little bit more sense if he's flowering 64 days every time with genetics that he bred. It stands to reason that he probably created strains of flower in that time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back. Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right. We are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're going to be clean and safe, and they're not going to give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the Pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. Oh, and we are back, you guys. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com.
Hold that against anybody.
And we are back.
mutation.
We are back, you guys.
Man. Oh, man.
You want to go
You
ahead?
got it, buddy? Go ahead, throw it on quickly. Thank you. We're dressing a special guest really quickly because, I'm going to get some help to pull Yarrow off the shelf today. He ate a little bit too much over the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So Yarrow's a little heavier today, so I need to call in reinforcements to take him off of his troll shelf.
Oh, man, I can't wait for
Shelf,
this.
shelf, not a troll shelf, okay?
So you're identifying as an elf as opposed to a troll, Yarrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
You're
all
an
right.
elf today as opposed to a troll. Okay.
Okay.
Well, explain the trolling, Yarrow.
Mm-hmm.
How can I explain something I don't do? Maybe you
And
should
how did you
explain
and
it.
Santa park the sleigh so quickly and get you out? That was quick. You were in the sleigh earlier. I saw the red seats. Come here, Parker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Come on this way.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right. My very own elf. I made him. Parker, can you tell Yarrow what you guys have in common? Other than the curly hair? Is it that you're taller than him?
That's not in common.
Well, that's true.
Don't start out smarting your mom on a Monday morning. That's my job.
Because you're probably taller than him. All right, at 4'10", 100 pounds, Parker's gonna pull Yarrow off the shelf. Can you reach up and snatch him down really quick so he can do his news story?
What? No.
All right, I'll get Yarrow down myself.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, from the Shire, your expert in California and other places, cannabis real estate, Yarrow Kubrin.
Woo! And the crowd goes wild. So Jenny, thank you for sharing with us your little schmoopy, little cutie. And he's adorable. And
Adorable.
he ran circles around you already this morning. So
Oh yeah, he's great.
kind of putting me out of a job. But without
great.
further ado, this is Yarrow Kubrin rounding out the end of the year, Monday, December 30th, almost 10 a.m. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And my article is from Ohio. So without any more introduction, non-medical sales make up nearly 2/3 of Ohio's marijuana purchases. Although marijuana prices in Ohio are still significantly higher than in neighboring Michigan, cannabis prices have decreased in the first 4 months since recreational sales have been legal. Since dispensaries were first permitted to sell recreational marijuana on August 6th, Ohio cannabis sales have generated nearly $350 million, which is 62% from of which 62% was from non-medical sales. According to data from the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control, recreational marijuana sales have consistently outpaced medical sales. The cost of cannabis in Ohio is also decreasing, which will affect total sales numbers. In August, the average cost of an ounce of dried flower was $261.50. The same amount of cannabis has an average cost now of $211. Although data is not available after December 16th, and that marks a $50 decrease in cost for Ohioans in just 4 months. Since recreational marijuana sales have been legalized, Ohio has kept track of the data in several ways. They have tracked total sales, as seen in the graph in the article, but fluctuating prices can make it difficult to tell how many sales have been made. Ohio also tracks sales by total receipts or totaling each transaction. Looking at the receipt data, non-medical sales are nearly twice as common as medical sales. Non-medical sales have also made up 5% more of the total sales each month by receipt data than they have the total sales by dollar amount. For instance, non-medical sales in August made up 58% of total sales, but 63% of the total transactions. This trend continued rising almost to the exact percentages in November. Non-medical sales made up 65% of total sales in dollars and 70.5% in total transactions. The disconnect between the transactions and dollar totals implies non-medical purchases are far more frequent, but possibly less expensive than medical sales. Smaller basket size, more frequent visits. This trend is particularly interesting because non-medical marijuana is subject to a 10% excise tax that medical marijuana is not subject to, making it more expensive to purchase recreationally. In total, recreational marijuana sales have hit $215 million in the first 4 months since they began. According to the Division of Cannabis Control, nearly 3 million non-medical transactions have made up that total. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I hand it back to my fellow talking.
Torso Yarrow, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not just my head.
Not just your head.
I mean, are we shocked? Is this surprising?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not terribly surprised by this. I mean, but nearly 2/3 of I still think that they have a pretty sizable medical market. If 1/3 of their overall market is medical sales, that's still a pretty big slice of the pie, especially for people that only sell tenths.
Nick wants to know if the exercise tax is like for running.
Excise, not exercise.
I wonder, do they have a large amount of specialty products for medical in Ohio that would garner such a high percentage, or is basically everything you can purchase as medical or under adult use? Yarrow.
I mean, I would assume, like, looking at the population in Ohio, a lot of people are more comfortable with saying it's their medical marijuana than their adult use marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So it might just be a comfort level thing, Jason.
Interesting thought on that.
I think it's also going to continue to increase, right? Because of the difference. If we're seeing price compression in the regulated adult use market, coupled with the fact that, it just tends to be a little bit more convenient for people to not have to renew their prescriptions and that kind of thing. But I also think that, the dynamic between medical and non-medical sales is in no small measure based on the quality of that medical program, the access to medical-only facilities. Some facilities do medical only, some do medical and adult use, depending on state by state. And then also the taxes. The bigger the tax differential, the more likely someone is going to think that it's worth their time and effort to continue to stay involved in a medical program.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a great part. That's a great point, Yarrow. Like, honestly, Ohio did a pretty shitty job at issuing permits and allowing a recreational market to roll out. So I guess you probably have to buy medical. You can't get anything else.
I mean, I'm still not sold on this. I think that just overall that that there has to be a wider variety of offerings that people can purchase only with a medical card. That's the only thing that makes sense for why, because we haven't seen this in any other state.
Yeah, Jason, if they weren't handing out a substantial number of cultivation licenses to adult use cultivators, then that would stand to reason that there would be more product on the medical side, correct?
I mean, I guess you're right about that part, Jenny Beth. I'm just,
So Jenny touches on two other important criteria I think about when I think about the relationship between medical versus non-medical sales in any given state.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is supply chain restrictions. Can cannabis that's grown in a facility that's designated for medical be compliantly transferred into a non-medical supply chain and vice versa? What level of back and forth can people do with that inventory? And then also potency restrictions. Are there tinctures that can be accessed through a medical program at a higher potency than recreational? And so I think you have to sort of peel back past the numbers. I covered this article because Ohio, to me, seems like the gift that keeps on giving, and it continues to be a state that seems to be doing well, tense or not.
Fair enough. You have any thoughts on this, Jesse? Maybe the medical brands have better branding.
No, it sounds like it's a combination of the price. I mean, we've covered several times just in the last couple of weeks how the prices are kind of outrageous. People are crossing state lines to even get weed. So if the prices are considerably cheaper on the medical side, which could very well be possible, and then sometimes you have these ingrained things. We're only in the first year, right? So yeah, I think next year it'll go up radically, and changes will happen too. It'll drop off when people they have to renew their licenses, and they're going to go, no, I'll just go to the dispensary down the street.
Oh, that's a good point there, Jesse. That is a good point. That is true. A lot of people still could have valid recommendations. That is a very good point. Just interesting. All right, well, we're going to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right, Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry. Secure up to $2 million today, and make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
Well, Darwinism at its finest. Kids always get the best.
We're bad guys. And before I introduce Jenny Beth, the C Word threw in a super chat who says, and thank you so much. The C Word says, my weed highlight of 2024 was the St. Ides 1,000 milligram syrup, you guys. And one last thing on that Ohio story, Brian Dombrowski says that the medical card is basically free, so it's worth it to stay medical in Ohio. I bet that is probably one of the biggest contributors to Ohio, with this 1/3 of sales being medical. But nonetheless, we're going to keep this thing rolling. We're going to roll right into Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's America's sweetheart. And you got to all just be introduced to her sweet son, Parker. She's the founder of Justice Served, a 501c3 that can help you get your life back on track if you have been oppressed by the law enforcement for this magical cannabis plant. She's also the founder of Kind Consulting, where she can help you get your business back on track as well. That's right, is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Yeah, one thing I can't help you come back from is your California operator. You need to have your documents in for your annual license by January 1, or your license will not be eligible to be renewed by the DCC. And you know what that means? That means you lost your fucking business. Congrats, jackasses. So hit me up. You have 2 days. It's a few simple forms. We can get them done, but you have to get this done, or you will not be eligible to renew your license any longer, which is going to be a tough realization for a lot of people who don't keep their shit in order. Also, your seller's permit needs to be valid, or you can't transact in California. Keep running across that one too. And one final little piece of housekeeping. Rest in peace to Jimmy Carter, the only U.S. president from the state of Georgia. He passed away yesterday at the age of 100. So shout out to Jimmy Carter. Very sweet guy, whether you agree with his politics or not. Did a lot for Habitat for Humanity and jumped out of a lot of airplanes at a very advanced age. So super cool guy, very sweet person, and rest.
Yeah, he built a lot of homes for the homeless, Jenny Beth.
That would be Habitat for Humanity. Yes, Jason. Yes, he did. So super good guy. But not so great news out of Denver. In Denver, cannabis delivery companies like Better Days Delivery are facing tough times during what some are calling a marijuana recession. Michael Diaz-Rivera, the owner of Better Days Delivery, who sometimes watches the show, started his business in 2021 as part of Denver's social equity program, designed to help people from disadvantaged backgrounds or those with past marijuana convictions enter the cannabis industry. While delivering marijuana products the day before Thanksgiving, a day known as the industry's Green Wednesday, Diaz-Rivera was hopeful for a brisk business. However, industry-wide marijuana sales in Denver and Colorado have been declining since their peak during the COVID-19 pandemic. Diaz-Rivera is one of the 14 active licensed cannabis delivery businesses in Denver, but the downturn in sales has made survival difficult. He applied for grants to stay afloat and says without additional funding, his chances of continuing are slim. Denver officials say the decline is due to inflation, evolving industry dynamics, and increased competition from other states that have legalized marijuana. At its height, Colorado's marijuana sales reached $2.2 billion in 2021. By 2023, sales dropped to $1.52, and only $1.06 billion has been reported so far this year. Despite challenges, Diaz-Rivera remains committed to the social equity mission, which helped him transition from a life marked by marijuana felony conviction at 19 to becoming a business owner and role model. His efforts are highlight the importance of programs aimed at repairing the harm caused by the war on drugs, which disproportionately affected communities of color. Diaz-Rivera believes delivery services have a future in the cannabis industry, saying people want convenience. Why not get their weed delivered too? But with sales dropping and only 13% of Denver's cannabis businesses participating in delivery, the road ahead remains uncertain. As the marijuana recession continues, businesses like Better Days Delivery are fighting to survive, representing not only personal perseverance, but also the broader effort to make the cannabis industry more equitable. We'll definitely stay following that. Definitely wish Michael the most success, and hopefully he can push through. I think there's a lot of things that you need to acknowledge about Colorado. One, Colorado's delivery program is very new. Colorado's social equity program is very new. Although their grants are much larger than what, say, the city of LA is offering for social equity applicants. You also have to have this delivery attached to a brick and mortar store that is existing. You can't just say, here, I'm going to open up a delivery, find some space in a warehouse, create a cage, bring products in and deliver my own products. You actually have to be partnered with a licensed brick and mortar store. Also, Colorado did very, very well, right? I, like a lot of other people, moved to Colorado very early on during the medicinal days to, one, not go to fucking prison forever in Georgia, but two, because it was one of the first true regulated markets, right? And true marijuana industries that were, and Yarrow's going to disagree and say it's California, but when they're looking at adult use and who did adult use first and actually put together regulations and enforcement division that actually structured something that could be run as a real industry, it was Colorado. So we had a lot of people moving from other states with sick kids, with sick family members, people who wanted access. There was a lot of cannabis tourism because you could go down Broadway and literally ping pong down the street and hit probably 15 dispensaries in the span of like a mile and a half. So those things we're seeing go away because other people, if you're from Ohio, you don't have to live in Colorado anymore and pay Colorado living expenses to get cannabis. If you're from, all these places that are opening up, you're able to go home and get the same access there that you were getting in Colorado. There aren't people driving to pick up boxes of weed from Colorado and take it back east anymore. Why? Because you can go to the dispensary in New York and New Jersey. So I think Colorado reported inappropriately high returns because of these things, and because we understand, if look at any market, first to market does well until that market reaches a saturation point. So I think Colorado is a statewide example of that, and I'll throw it back to you guys. I'm sure I'll have more to throw in later.
Very, very interesting. I mean, delivery being new out there in Colorado, you would think that they would have been like ahead of the curve on this, since they were such ahead of the curve on the country with the actual sales of cannabis. But
look how many freaking dispensaries are in Denver alone, right? You could throw a freaking wiffle ball and hit one.
I agree with you, but Colorado's
it's not that
is
hard
super.
to walk outside and be like, "Yo, hey, here's the dispensary."
Yeah, but Colorado's a super rural state, so I just imagine that delivery would be something that people would want to take more advantage of, especially people that live kind of like off the beaten path in like inhabited cities like Denver. Yeah, more rural areas.
Delivery is less profitable the less dense your market is, and so it's the opposite, Jason. And I say that knowing I'm speaking to a brick and mortar boy, but really, delivery is better in a densely populated urban environment. You start getting into these rural areas, you miss the turnoff, the GPS doesn't work. Is it that gate? Is it that dirt road? You just can't get it.
Is the side of this road a fucking cliff that my employee might drive down? Their family's going to sue me for millions of dollars that I already don't have.
It's actually better for the customer if they're in a more remote location for them to do their shopping at brick and mortar than to wait for someone to meander up the cul-de-sac.
And you'd be surprised how many shops exist in very small towns. I'm like, how do you guys have 4 shops right now? You have 17 residents, but all right, cool. I guess, 2 to each store or whatever. But it's, no, Yarrow's absolutely right. Like the only places it would really work, Denver, Boulder, places like that, right? That's the only place that sustains enough. And you have to understand, like, Colorado has already educated their consumer base on this is how we do things, right? You come into the store, you whatever. It's been going on for a long time and it sucks. Like I do see this being amazing for inbound residents, right? So like you're in your wheelchair, it's hard to get out during a blizzard. That I can absolutely understand. I could see there being a benefit to that, but that's such a small percentage of the population, right? A lot of people that you see in Colorado are like bros who want to go get an Icon Pass all winter, and you know what I mean, like work in a brewery. So those guys don't mind throwing on some boots really quick and going out, and you'll be surprised how quick you get used to the cold. It's really not a huge deal for them, but I think it's also a testament to the fact that that's why less than 13% of brick and mortar retailers are willing to partner with delivery services, because they have plenty of people coming into the store. They don't need to reach out to that. I think it's going to be the more medicinally focused community who are looking at inbound patients.
Interesting.
I mean, what really serves rural customers is the mail. And that's really going to be the cheapest bet. We're not there yet, but really, when people can open up their mailbox and get all of the things they want, then we are talking efficiency, then we're talking convenience, and then we're talking margins for operators.
Interesting. What do you have to say about this, Jesse?
I think it's a sag in the tourism market. I think there's already overall a sag in the tourism market, but Denver for sure 10 years ago was a destination for weed from people from all over the country, and now most of those states are legal in some fashion. So people aren't traveling to Denver specifically to get weed. So that's got to be a big impact.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know that it's quantifiable or how they would quantify it, but it's definitely got to be impacting their market for sure. That's got to be a reason that this is happening. Also, the tourism market would be the people who would really demand delivery. So it's got to hit across the board. I think that's probably the biggest factor.
Yeah, I imagine.
Well, I think it's just really interesting to add a whole new licensing category to a state that's already oversaturated and showing a decline.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of stupid.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to end the show on some good news, you guys. I found a good news story to end this Monday, the most important day of the week on you guys. I think you guys are going to. I think you guys will enjoy this because the Massachusetts governor, Maura Healey, has announced pardons for 8 individuals charged with marijuana-related offenses, you guys. That's right. Via the introduction of Senate Bill 3007, which was filed this week and read on Friday in the House of Representatives, Governor Healey announced pardons for the following individuals. Richard Barnes, minor Dean, Richard Barnes, minor Dean Montaro, Bolin Kenny, Jean David Palazzo, Kira Persu, Dennis Reyes Anthony, and Tyndall Robert Tober, you guys. So congratulations to all of them. All 8 were convicted on or before March 13th, 2024 of the following non-juvenile offenses: the misdemeanor or possession of marijuana, the misdemeanor of attempted possession of marijuana, or the misdemeanor of conspiracy to possess marijuana. Senate Bill 3007 mentions that no pardons were revoked during the calendar year in 2024, and Massachusetts legalized cannabis in 2016, allowing adults 21 and older to possess up to 1 ounce and cultivate up to 6 plants for personal use. The state's first licensed marijuana store opened back in November of 2018, and in November of this year alone, there was over $150 million worth of marijuana products sold legally, you guys. Well, this is fantastic for these 8 individuals. I think this is great news. Hopefully they can help get their life back on track if this adversely affect them in any way. And good job. I hope to see this in more and more states.
There's some folks that can try to help them out.
Oh man, that's where Justice Serve kicks in.
Oh, hey.
Mm-hmm.
This is great news. This is a good story to end on, Jason. There's no way we can argue about this.
Look at that.
I can.
Okay. Here we go. Yeah.
First of all, the stock photo of cannabis in this article was the mids picture of cannabis in the world. It was terrible. I can feel the harshness in my throat just looking at that oxidized shit. I have family members 4 generations deceased that are less oxidized in their coffins than that cannabis that was in the picture. The second thing is these pardons are for misdemeanors. I'm not saying that I want to pardon shame, but I like pardons for felonies more than I like pardons for misdemeanors, because I feel like it's just a safer base hit to pardon some people for misdemeanor cannabis possession instead of acknowledging that people who get misdemeanor possession convictions could not have gotten those, but for other people taking felonious behavior to create a supply chain to support those misdemeanor defendants. So all I'm saying is you're right. It's feel good. It's a step in the right direction, but it feels very much like it's
disingenuous, you're saying, because they're placating to people that could have easily expunged this case or whatnot, because it's the misdemeanor charges. None of them are felony charges.
These are not life changing. They don't have to say they've been convicted of a felony on a job application. They don't have to have the stigma if they're going to rent an apartment. And so it's not bad, but it's not amazing.
No, 100%. And I agree with you, Yarrow. I disagree on some points, because there are some jobs and there are some apartments and are some places where they're like, hey, misdemeanor or felony for drugs. And that would be a big old yes. So you're helping a little bit. I agree that there needs to be more done. I agree that we need to start addressing felonies. I think the felonious charges are a little bit harder to address because hey, maybe your sales charge could have been kicked down to a misdemeanor. But the fact that you had a gun on you because you have to protect yourself just in case this customer was about to rob you, which now turns that into a violent felony. So I think that's probably why felonies aren't necessarily addressed quite as often, because there are more layers to peel back and more, looking into what causes to be a felony. I also kind of have a little bit of a hard on for people who are still getting egregious fucking felonies in places where they could just go try and get a fucking license, right? If you're not going to pass through the requirements to get a license, there might be a fucking reason why. But no, I think that as we move forward, we need to find a way to start systematically addressing these felonious charges and kind of setting those aside in the same way that we're so quick to do with the misdemeanors, because those are pretty freaking life-changing.
I have a question, Jenny. It says in here, it says that one of the charges that people were pardoned for is where did it go? Misdemeanor of conspiracy to possess marijuana. How in the hell is that? How is that even a charge? Conspiracy to possess marijuana.
They take your phone and they see that you're having a little text with your plug to get your eighth. And that's conspiracy to possess.
Are you serious? Is that how that?
I mean, these are
it could
chicken
be
shit
that,
charges.
Or you attempted a CI buy or something like that. So
that is ridiculous.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
It's bullshit.
And shout out to Joe
bullshit.
Mackey with a big old super chat who says equality across the board Who gives a shit what the conviction is?
Well, I do if you shot people.
Well, and I do also, because when you're going to pardon somebody, the gravity, the impact of that pardon is in no small measure related to what the conviction was about.
I think there's another thing here too. Like, there's only 8 of them.
Yeah,
Right.
only 8 people.
How many actual misdemeanors on marijuana were there in the whole year? There's no way in Massachusetts there was only 8. And then on top of that, the felonies, like, and how many people have been sitting and are still sitting from the last 20 or 30 years in Massachusetts? It says nothing about that. It seems like
it's really hard to get those numbers. That's why families have to self-report, right? You have organizations that have lists of names that they won't share. So it's hard to get all the actual facts straight because nobody wants to fucking work together because everybody wants to say, ooh, I did it. We don't give a fuck if you did it or not. We give a fuck if people are getting released from jail and having their lives restored to them and bringing their families back together. That's what we give a fuck about. I don't give a fuck about you trying to get a bunch of funding. Like, yes, we need funding for this, but if you're trying to bogart things and bogart gatekeep people's fucking human stories when their rights are being violated actively for financial gain, how much of that money is really going back to them and how much are you lining your fucking pockets with? Let's be real.
So I think what we're basically in consensus is it's a great press release. 8 is better than 0, but there should have been a 0 on the other side of the 8, and it should have been 80, not 8. And pardons become meaningful when the convictions were meaningful, and misdemeanors are like having a hangnail. It's not like having a gunshot wound.
Fair enough. Any final statements on this, Jesse, before we close out?
No, that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to the Suitors and Joe Mackey with those big old super chats, and huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, and thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all of this. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners Adam out there in the virtual world, and thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.
1, 2, 3, 4.